enough. The sun, wow. Yeah, for some of you, this is about shining, being your best self, learning how to exist in a higher frequency in order to attract that which you are trying to call in. So it's like the saying, embody the magic that you want to see in the world, right? Embody that which you want to create. So you start getting into the energy of that frequency, right? And you become a powerhouse once you have mastered that. And that's not about copycatting. It's not about faking it till you make it, though it kind of seems similar, right? It's about going, what does this feel like if I, not if, but when I accomplish this? Again, speak in present tense. If you aren't quite there, then just be mindful that eventually you're going to want to update your intentions to be present tense as if it's already happening, okay? Because then you become a match to the energy. It's like the whole thing we were talking about with waiting. If you're constantly waiting, you're telling the universe you're okay waiting. Whereas if you command it forward, you're stating to the universe, I'm a match to this. And you start embodying that energy, and then all of a sudden the universe says, oh, you're right, here you go. Six of Swords. Finding balance in your communication. Finding a way to move forward in life in a safe, pleasant, balanced, harmonious way. Understanding that you do have tools at your disposal here, and you are guiding your own ship here, but Spirit is all around you and here to help you understand how to do this, okay? I'd like to know more about your, for some of you, again, this could be different, apply it how it fits. Ace of Pentacles, what is this divine blessing that we are freeing up? And it looks like, again, some of you already made a hard decision that required a serious change. Some of you, I'm hearing, gave it up to God, so you know how to let go of things and move forward and know that they're going to come back to you, right? But I'd like to know more about this Ace of Pentacles, this tangible blessing from Spirit. Eight of Wands. The ability to move forward. Maybe you are the blessing and the gift. That's for some. Eight of Wands is about quick moving action, about communicating quickly, about travel, getting through something, getting very Sagittarian energy. We did just enter Sagittarius season. Again, timeless message. If you are not in Sagittarius season, perhaps you're a Sagittarius, or you want to look at a Sagittarian part of your chart, and that'll help you understand how to access this blessing. Four of Cups. Yeah, some of you don't see this blessing coming. So for some of you, this is going to be a very quick move on something that is going to bring you into this energy. I'm looking over here at the Emperor, of being in control of your own domain, or feeling like you have authority or autonomy. Seven of Pentacles. Some of you are really focused on something you have invested in, something that's going to give you sustainable long-term growth. And that's one reason you may not be paying attention to this opportunity. Or you would rather focus on what you're already invested in than take action on this blessing, which really that means you're telling the universe that you're not interested in this blessing. And if you see this Four of Cups, it's typically a person who's not paying attention, who's kind of feeling blah, and they don't really care. They don't really want to focus on anything new. They just kind of want to stay where they're at, meditate, you know, go through the feelings. And Spirit's like, hey, check this out. We got something for you. And over here with the Seven of Pentacles, some of these energies are going, that's nice, but I'm busy. And that's cool. I mean, if that's how you feel, that's how you feel. What is it that some of you are so heavily invested in that has got your focus, that is distracting you from this divine gift? The Empress. Wow. Okay. We have the Emperor and the Empress on the table. And whoever this energy is about, you are in the Emperor energy. So you're in your more divine masculine energy. But you're focused on an Empress. This could be a person, but typically this is a divine match. This is the highest union you can come into. This is it's either a spiritual union or it's the deepest love you could ever hope to achieve. It could also, again, represent the divine union within yourself with the Lover's card. And this is the ultimate divine masculine and feminine in the tarot. So some of you are really invested in mastering the divine feminine side within you. So how is this energy? We're not going to put it on any particular way yet. We're going to see where Spirit's taking this. I had something there, but it kind of went away. Hold on a sec. I think I'm getting a download on this. Tell me more about the Empress here, Spirit. The Five of Swords. Huh. For some of you, you're really invested in speaking more kindly to yourself. Perhaps you're looking at ways that you haven't been very receptive or nurturing in the past. If this is about you integrating your more divine feminine side, you're very invested in being kinder and nurturing, especially the way you speak and communicate. I'm feeling a heavy emphasis on communication in this reading with all the Gemini, plus us being in a Mercury retrograde. It's about reviewing, going back, looking at any ways that you have communicated in the past, right? Or dealt with people in your local community. So some of you are so invested in, I'm hearing, self-development. For some of you, I just got a side download that you are thinking about how a feminine figure, older feminine figure in your life was malicious with their words. And this has you really invested in healing that toxic feminine side of you that you developed because of that emotional trauma, I'm hearing. And I mean, if you are going through a lot of healing, especially down here with the Five of Cups on the bottom left, for those of you that are still in the feels, are still in a loop, I'm hearing, especially mentally, this can really make it to where you can't really focus on what's going on outside of your local environment, right? Which could be something as simple as where you live. It could be your work environment. For some of you, this is about ways you have spoken to an Empress in the past, as far as the love portion of this might go. Some of you have been not completely transparent with your words. This is where we could get into real talk for some of you. So if you don't have the stones to stick around, skip ahead, or, you know, happy trails. I wish you luck. Five of Swords is, quite frankly, the card of narcissists. And I don't usually drop that word on this, but since we're talking about deep emotional healing from malicious words, that can represent that. So whether you would say you are or you aren't, or there was somebody in your life, perhaps it was this Empress, perhaps you were really invested in an Empress, though an Empress is the ultimate divine feminine. that's extremely unlikely that a real empress would be with those character traits. Okay, so if you're projecting that onto that person and that's what you're invested in, is seeing all the potentially terrible things about this person, it seems like you're in a loop. You're in an emotional loop and you're having difficulty focusing on anything else because it seems like you might, and again, I have a disclaimer in the description box. I'm not a professional mental or medical health worker. I'm an advocate. I spread awareness, I break stigmas, and I openly speak about these things as a healer, okay? But some of you might have been projecting onto this person because, again, an emperor doesn't typically do that either. An emperor in reverse, like we were speaking to earlier, would be like a totalitarian, would be somebody who enjoys coercive control. Trigger warning. Sorry, everyone. See something on this emperor. Justice. Wow. Okay. Well, that just took a different turn. This is for a different group, it seems. It seems like whoever you are invested in getting this right. You are truly thinking about being in balance with yourself and doing what is just and fair. For some of you, you have justice called on you because of prior actions and ways that you have been malicious to a nurturing person in your life. And it doesn't have to be love. It could be like a feminine identifying figure in your life, like a sister, especially an older sister, I'm hearing for some of you. Or, again, mother figures coming in strong. Perhaps you were the one that was unkind with your words to your mother, for some of you. And this is a block. This is why Spirit's bringing this up. I mean, again, we have heavy communication, getting lost in loops and feelings here. And underneath the Empress and the Seven of Pentacles and the Five of Swords is the Six of Swords. So there is a progression here. And don't forget, we have the Hierophant underneath that, and then Death above that. So it's like Spirit, the Divine, are helping you get through this change, helping you take the steps in order to overcome this loop. But you have to pay attention. I get the feeling that this Ace of Pentacles has something to do with a turnaround, with breaking a loop here. But you're not focused on it because you're so deep in the work that you're wow, okay, the deck just flipped. Did you hear that? Nine of Wands. That's the Wounded Warrior card. And then we have the High Priestess that was on the top of the deck and the King of Swords that came out all weird. I'm going to leave those in. But this is about knowing deeply, intuitively, how you speak your words, how you communicate, and also how you cut out nonsense. Some of you are operating from your wounds. Some of you are projecting onto others. And I know I'm going to lose a bunch of people from this because they can't handle it. And I did try to warn y'all, you know. But I find solutions. I'm not just going to sit here and criticize you, okay? I'm a guide, and Spirit is working through me for the highest and greatest good here. I'm going to take the Nine of Wands, but leave the rest in there. So some of you are also working on healing yourself after a long, strenuous journey, and you have been fighting off people time and time and time again, which is why you're taking the time to invest in this nurturing. Some of you are also being very unkind to yourself, not nurturing yourself in the way you need to be, and that's keeping you in your wounds. Perhaps I'm getting back to this mother figure that was toxic, that was malicious with their words, however you want to take that, okay? And again, I would suggest cleansing after this reading if you feel triggered, to clear the energy so you don't get stuck, okay? Ask Spirit to help you not get stuck in a loop. Ask for clarity, ask for healing, and they will help you. You'll get it through signs, synchronicities, epiphanies. Tap in, meditate if you can, but don't lose yourself in the work. Don't become consumed in the work, because then you'll knock yourself out of balance. And when you are dealing with trauma, especially with childhood developmental issues that trauma can cause, which can cause delays in cognitive functioning, you can actually dissociate, which is different than disassociate. Okay, I've explained this before. To dissociate is to lose yourself, to be removed from yourself, right? Disassociate is to remove yourself from others. So when you dissociate, it can cause you to disassociate from life and others, right? By removing yourself, which means if you possibly felt isolated when you were young because of some mental and emotional trauma you went through in your family system, you may have a tendency of getting stuck in these self-defeating, self-sabotaging cycles where you get caught up in the energy of the past, and that's called an emotional flashback, by the way. It's where a situation will trigger a wound, right? We have the wounded warrior here. So perhaps somebody says something to you and they don't mean for it to hurt your feelings, but it makes you feel really uncomfortable, really angry, and you don't know why. And perhaps some of you haven't really worked on emotional regulation, which we were talking about earlier. Some of you are working on that, right? And even if you are working on it, sometimes the trigger will take you by surprise. And that can cause you to neurologically dysregulate then, okay? And then when you neurologically dysregulate, you don't make the best decisions. It can impact your memory. It can impact other factors that can make you not be able to focus on things, be distracted, which means it's easier for you to slip into negative, lower level energies. Even if you're a high vibrational spiritual person, I personally have struggled with complex trauma my whole life, so I know exactly what I'm talking about. This is why I became an advocate, was to help other people after spending over 13 years mastering my mind, my emotions, and the self, okay? So I'm not saying I'm an expert, but I do have a lot of information I have learned on my journey. For some of you, check out my public playlist called Support for Survivors. It is other people, it's even professionals in the field, and also stories and advocacy that will open your mind and help you find your way. If you are at the beginning of this, it might be important for you to go down that route, okay? I wasn't planning on having this deep of a reading, but again, I never plan. I just see where spirit takes us. But apparently some of you really needed the emotional support, which, believe it or not, that's what I'm doing. And that makes me think some of you, and I'm channeling right now, so just bear with me, some of you actually recoil when you receive nurturing, when you receive love, because you don't trust it. And again, if you've been wounded a lot where you keep ending up with the same kind of people in different aspects of your life or different situations, those of you that are more aware are going to work on that and try to break it, that pattern, that cycle, that loop. But again, being so submerged in the shadow, you can get lost in the shadow, lost in your wounds, which makes you continue a self-sabotage, self-defeating loop. And I feel like I'm talking in circles here, which is indicative of the energy. For some of you, look up the asteroid Chiron, where that is in your birth chart, okay? Chiron is the asteroid that represents the wounded healer, okay? And once you master your Chiron placement, you can actually help other people heal that same aspect within themselves. So if you are a spiritual worker or you do want to help the collective, you have to master your own wounds, right? I didn't start calling myself a healer until I myself did that, all right? Actually, kind of interesting, this is just a little side note about me with my astrology. since we have such a strong Gemini communication emphasis on here, my 12th house, which is the house that rules the hidden, the subconscious, the psychic, the ethereal, it's typically ruled by Neptune or Pisces, right? The place, the house, not in your particular chart. If you don't know astrology, this might be a little confusing, so just hang with. Anyways, we all have a different sign in each house, right? And each of those signs also is ruled by a planet. You can go deeper than that if you want. But anyways, the point is my 12th house is in Gemini, which is the most communicative sign in the zodiac. Okay? So I have my Chiron in 12th house Gemini. I did a short video on this about a year ago talking about how until I became comfortable with my subconscious, I wasn't able to tap into my psychic mediumship gifts, which is about communicating from the hidden, the deep, the subconscious. All right? So when I mastered my wounds when it came to communicating my deepest parts of myself and being comfortable with leading with those vulnerabilities, again, 12th house is ruled by Pisces, Neptune, extremely deep feeling, I was able to launch my gifts on a public sphere and help other people learn how to communicate and master their emotions and the hidden, the deep. But I had deep fears and themes in my life that mirrored that pushed me into boxes where I wasn't allowed to express myself. And to this day, I still have people trying to shut me up and make me be quiet. But that's all right. Spirit and I aren't having it anymore. I earned my voice, and you can too. So for some of you, look at your Chiron placement. For some of you, look at your third house where your communication lies, what sign you have your Mercury, which is typically but not always the same sign as your sun sign because they transit very similar speeds. And that can kind of give you an idea of how you can communicate better. And for some of you, your 12th house, so your subconscious mind. Okay? If you're doing the deep emotional healing, that will help you. But if you're getting lost in these cycles here, Spirit's telling you to take a deep breath. Perhaps for some of you, if you are in a position where you can do this, perhaps there is an opportunity, like I'm hearing a trip or an adventure or starting something tangible that is going to take your mind off these loops. For some of you, I'm hearing it is this Empress, the Empress that you made the distraction that you're invested in, that for some of you, you are trying to like hyper heal for, is the gift, but you haven't actually accepted the gift because you're so busy doing the shadow work. You haven't actually brought this into the 3D realm. And for some of you, I'm hearing you haven't communicated. And again, if you're so focused on the work and not what's right in front of you, you may miss an opportunity. And I'm not saying you're going to. Unfortunately, some of you have already learned this lesson, and that is your justice. Because justice over here on top of the Emperor. Some of you have unfortunately learned this hard lesson, and it has made you feel very wounded. So I feel like the energy is shifting to a more past timeline for some of you. What is, before we move on to that, if we move on to that, excuse me, pardon me, confirmation burp for some of you. Spirit, I feel like, like I said, for some of you, the solution is taking a trip or starting a tangible project, and that is the blessing. It could break up the energy. It's like that saying, what was it? Einstein had some of his most brilliant epiphanies in the bathtub when his wife made him take a break. If it wasn't Einstein, it was another like creative, intelligent genius. It's well known. If you're too close to something, sometimes you can't see the bigger picture. And you can get lost in the details. And there's that phrase, the devil is in the details. Well, the distractions, the details. Also, getting stuck in your mind. Again, this Five of Swords could represent somebody who is being very unkind to themselves. Perhaps you had somebody in your childhood who did that to you, and every time you get dysregulated from being stuck in a loop, which by the way is a sign that you can pay attention to call your energy back and ground yourself. Some of you just need to learn how to master the art of grounding and being in the present moment, like this King of Pentacles over here in between the Hierophant and the Emperor. It's like the divine are saying that for some of you, it's something as simple as learning how to ground and have a grounding practice to be able to anchor in everything you are trying to create, whether it's healing, whether it's a connection, whether it's a new business venture. For some of you with the Ace of Pentacles, it could be the gift of getting approved of a loan for something, or inheriting property for some of you. Oh, I just got chills. That's true for some of you. Wow, the cards are just jumping about. King of Swords with the Ace of Wands. We were talking about both those cards, and I am a psychic medium, so I do tend to call out the energy before it appears often in the cards. And King of Swords is the master of communication. It's also somebody who doesn't play around with their words, and who can also be seen as kind of cold and calculating and sharp, maybe a little too stoic for some of you. But the Ace of Wands is this new divine inspiration. This is another divine blessing or gift. Again, claim your blessings or gifts, okay? For some of you, I'm hearing that this divine blessing is going to give you the inspiration to master communication and speech, and also mastering your mind. For some of you, you might get stuck in mental loops, and that can actually feed the emotional trauma, which keeps you stuck in place, missing out on some opportunities. Maybe some of you have learned this, and this divine blessing was learning how to speak in a way that is diplomatic, that is fair. Again, we have the Justice card over the Emperor. Some of you, interesting, I don't usually pick up on specific professions, but some of you might have actually entered the legal field, or are mastering a higher level of it and doing something in your local community that is bringing justice because of overcoming these wounds. So that's past, wow, the Well. That's an extra card in this deck, which is like the Empress 2.0. Yeah, some of you have mastered nurturing your emotions and coming out of emotional healing. This is interesting. It makes me think of Pluto in Aquarius, the transit that we started over a year ago, that is in effect essentially 15 to 20 years, and Pluto is the planet of transformation. There is so much more I could go into that, but Aquarius is an air sign, which the King of Swords can represent. I'm not saying you're an air sign, but this is the energy, okay? You could be, but this is the energy. Whatever it is that you mastered with your mind or your communication, this has given you limitless possibilities. And some of you, when you break out of this loop, you're going to be able to accomplish that. Okay, but you have to, sometimes part of the thing about the Empress that a lot of people forget is, in order to receive, you have to rest. And I used to be in my toxic masculine, again, we're talking about energy, not gender. I was in my toxic masculine most of my life because I was taught to not nurture my emotions, to not express my feelings. And in a lot of ways, I've experienced a lot of this, because this is a collective read and I am part of the collective. So I know a lot about this journey and this process. And when you can get out of the loop and you can master emotional intelligence and use your words with discernment and power, you have wise judgment, you have better control over your faculties and how you present yourself. Really, you do have limitless possibilities that you can create, that you can pull from. So for some of you, this is about breaking up your routine in order to get there. For some of you, this is about pulling away from the shadow work and stabilizing and grounding so you can really see things in a different light, okay? And for some of you, this is about looking at the ways that you have caught other people up in loops and not nurtured, okay? What I was talking about, me personally, and the nurturance and the rest and all that being in my toxic masculine most of my life, that also had to do with I had to be independent, you know, almost hyper independent. And until I allowed myself to rest, I didn't really understand that that was okay. I didn't really know how to nurture myself until I worked on my self-love, and I healed a lot of emotional wounds, right? I just pulled the Hermit. Yeah, I went into Hermit mode. I did do the work. I did the shadow work. And for some of you, you are doing the same thing right now. You are on your Hermit's journey. You are thick in the feels and trying to discern and look at all the details really up close. For some of you, I'm sensing there is a pressure to do this for another person, and it's making it harder on you. It's stressing you out. And it's actually making you get lost in the cycle more. You have to want to do this for yourself. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but if you don't want to hear that, that's a red flag that you are not doing it for yourself. If you are trying to catch up to somebody and you don't feel like you are worthy enough, you are going to stay in a perpetual loop of not being good enough and wanting to catch up. Okay, again, we were talking about embodying the energy. For some of you, you're already the emperor. You already have mastered taking action on something. But for some reason, this difficulty with communication or getting stuck in these emotional loops, it knocks you out of balance. I feel like that particular group could use a little more guidance, so I'm going to go into that, and then I'd like to switch up the energy. I'm feeling called to some oracle, but we'll see, okay? Let's just keep going with the journey. Thank you for being here. If you're still here after all that guidance, you're a strong soul, and I appreciate you seeing things from other perspectives, okay? Perhaps this reading is a tower moment for you, which is unexpected change and sudden epiphanies and forced transformation by the divine. The divine is here on the table with the Hierophant. I don't always read that as a God energy or a source energy, but in this particular reading, I really feel like that's what that represents, okay? So, Spirit, what guidance do you have for the highest and greatest good, the energies that are stuck in these loops, we'll call them, whoever you're doing this for, let's just say, you know, to help you personally, okay? Other than breaking up the energy, other than going on a trip and changing scenery or routine, other than pulling back from the details or the shadow work, what is it that we can tell these energies? Interesting. The song Hailing by FC Kahuna just came on, and the lyrics of the song is, don't think about all those things you fear, just be glad to be here. And then it repeats and goes on and on. Okay? So Spirit's answering right away with those song lyrics. I have a music playlist on my Spotify called Transmute It. I share it all the time. It's a very wide music variety, and if you are an emotional alchemist or you're wanting to regulate your emotions, it could help you get through it. Just hit shuffle and ask spirit to guide the flow and see what comes up. Pay attention to